Question: should police officers be allowed to use facial recognition technology to fight crime? Well, if you ask that question in Detroit, Michigan, you'll likely get some very intense responses. In fact, last Thursday, during a police commissioner meeting on this very topic, one board member was actually hauled away in handcuffs and also arrested. Take a look.
If you throw me out of this office and I'm duly elected, this is franchise to 100,000 voters that I represent in the 5th district. You must throw us all out. You throw me out, throw us all out. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Don't touch me. Get your hands off me. You do not have permission to touch me.
Police Commissioner Willie Burton was jailed for disorderly conduct shortly after he posted bail. He was then released. All along, though, Burton claimed the board was trying to silence his objection to the use of facial recognition technology by police. Now, the chairwoman who tossed him out says that she did so because he was being disruptive and not because she disagreed with him. Lisa Carter says she shares her colleagues' concern about Detroit police using this controversial technology and plans to join him in voting against it. It's joining us now to discuss the use of this technology, investigative journalist Ben Swann. Ben, this is right up your wheelhouse here. This facial recognition technology is part of Detroit's Green Light project, as they're calling it. So the city spent more than $1 million on this software, and it'll, allow officers to scan people's faces from these camera feeds installed on over 500 businesses, including there's churches, schools, pharmacies. So don't residents have a say in all of this, Ben? They have a lot at stake here, don't they?
Well, they have the most at stake, and no, they don't have a say. Look, so far, Detroit's actually been running this program, Project Greenlight, for almost 2 years now. But they've been doing it with using high-definition private surveillance cameras on store owners and property owners' personal property. Then this year, as you mentioned, in March, the mayor of Detroit announced this new expansion of the project, 500 new cameras, and we're talking about he promised to spend up to $9 million doing this. He was talking about, surveillance cameras. What he did not explain to the public is that the images from these cameras are being taken and then run through facial recognition software and databases to be matched against the 50 million driver's license photos in the state of Michigan's DMV database. So that's what they've been doing with it. And so far, the public has not had a say, but a lot of people in Detroit are very upset about this.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the mayor, Mike Dugan is his name. He even took to social media last week. He tried to calm people's concerns across the city, saying that the police wouldn't be, live streaming this or anything anywhere. But do you buy that, Ben? I mean, can't this easily get into the wrong hands?
Well, it can, but see, the problem is that the mayor said, we're not going to live stream. That's not what people are afraid of. They're not afraid that a camera is going to be set up and be live streaming people walking by. What they're concerned about is that police will take that and use facial recognition software to try to match suspects in crimes, persons of interest in crimes, potential witnesses in crimes. And they would take those photographs, they run it through the database, and they are now cataloging and collecting everyone's information. And that's a huge problem because, look, Manila, facial recognition software, we've talked about this before, is so far from being accurate and a true science. But when it comes to the black community, there have been a couple of very interesting studies done. One was done by MIT that basically said that the darker the pigmentation is of the person who has their face being run through this software, the harder it is for most databases to scan them. Amazon's facial recognition program mistakenly took 13 dark-skinned women and falsely claimed that they were men.
Yeah. So there obviously is a big problem there, especially in Detroit, given that some 30% or so of Detroit's population are people of color. So there's obvious concern for that group of people, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Detroit's population actually may be higher than that in terms of people of color. Here in Atlanta, it's about 50% of the population is people of color, and Detroit is actually higher than this. And actually, Detroit has the highest African-American population of any large city in the United States. And that's important because as some of these activists say, if facial recognition software is misappropriated and misused in Detroit, it will be misused everywhere. This is the one city that should be able to stand up against it. Now, this is something that's very important. That there was also a study done by the University of Notre Dame, and they took a look at both black and white people who were being scanned through facial recognition. And here's what they found: that black people could not be accurately identified when the algorithm and the settings were calibrated for white faces. If you said, okay, well, then we need to adjust that and we need to calibrate it specifically for people of darker skin, and you do that, you can no longer get accurate results on the lighter faces. So what they found in this study by Notre Dame was that you cannot calibrate the cameras right now or facial recognition software to be able to accurately read both groups of people, lighter skin, and I shouldn't just say white or black, because obviously there's
everyone in the middle
pigmentations.
Right.
But it does not work to do it that way. And so right now, as we know it, it is not accurate, which means if you're going to use that software, you have to right now discriminate against one of those groups. And a lot of people will believe that it's going to go towards the darker skinned minority groups.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you said, not only African Americans specifically. There are people of color, of in between color, like myself. Or we should also note that outside of Detroit, in that Detroit metropolitan area, is the biggest Arab American community outside of the Middle East.
That's right.
So there's a lot of people that this could negatively impact. So we're obviously the technology just not there yet. And there's a reason that police commissioner was shouting and expressing his views the way he was. As always, appreciate your take on it. You got one more, Ben?
No. I was just going to say there is a bill right now, by the way, in the Michigan State House that's going forward to try to ban for 5 years any use of facial recognition until the technology is figured out. And so we'll see what happens with that.
Wow, that'll certainly change the game. So we will see. We'll keep our eye on it. As always, appreciate your take on this. Ben Swan, thank you.
Manila, thanks.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.